So I hope you can all hear me. You've lost your microphone. Yes, you've lost it, but I can't stand still, so I'm going to try to project. If you can't hear, just say, "What did you say?" All right? I'm all right with that. I want to start out first by saying I don't know that I have been this nervous about leading worship and preaching in a really long time. Like, I've got butterflies and I'm not even sure what to say. And I know why it is. I mean, this is sort of this huge transition time. It's a huge transition time for me, for the people of Tyler Place, and for the people of Oak Hill. And I know this is sort of my, it's my last sermon with the people of Tyler Place. And that's, in one sense, it's a good thing. In another, it's a bad thing. And so there's a lot going on in my head and in my stomach. And I want to not rush through this, but I don't want to take too long either. And so here we sit together on the first Sunday of Advent. Here we sit together on this first Sunday of our year. Now, we don't make a big deal of the first Sunday of our year. But maybe we should. We don't make a big deal of the first Sunday of our year. It comes and it goes, and then we move into the second Sunday, third Sunday, fourth Sunday, and we sort of do rush through them, hoping to get through the Christmas season and into the new year and out of it. And before we know it, we're sort of into those doldrums of February. And we're wondering what happened. We're wondering, where did the time go? I'll be honest, I'm already wondering what happened to Thanksgiving. Not just what happened at Thanksgiving, but what happened to Thanksgiving. I mean, once Thanksgiving dinner was over, people were out shopping already. Once Thanksgiving dinner was over, people were fighting over televisions, not taking the time to stop and wait and see and listen and hear what God is doing in their lives. We just move from season to season and time to time, and so I really think maybe, and I don't know how we can do this, we need to make a bigger deal out of our first Sunday of the year, so that we know something new is happening, something new is beginning. And so I'm hoping that this Sunday, this first Sunday of Advent, will always be an important Sunday in the life of Oak Hill Presbyterian Church. As you are being renewed by the people who are joining from Tyler Place, and as you are renewing them in their faith, I hope that for years to come you will celebrate this first Sunday of Advent as the new beginning it is. Not just this year, but every year. Because every year it's a new beginning. A new time, a new year, a new celebration. But on this first Sunday of Advent, on this first Sunday of Advent and the Sundays to come, we wait. On this first Sunday of Advent, we wait and we hear these stories of what God is going to do. Don't you hear this prophecy of Isaiah and say to yourself, when? When will this happen? When will this come to pass? Why not now? Why not here? Why not for us? Every time I come to this first Sunday, to this new time, to this new year, I think, why not now? God, why don't you do it now? Let's just start all over now. And the now doesn't come. But also I think to myself that now, that reality of that now scares me to death. Because it means, in a sense, an end. And ends are scary. And so we sit here in this time of wanting God to come now, but maybe not so much. We sit in this time and we wait. And we wonder. And we seek and we ask, but what is it that we're waiting for? Are we waiting for Jesus to be born? Well, no, because that's already happened. That's already happened. So these 4 weeks aren't just about Christmas and Jesus being born. These first 4 Sundays of our year are about waiting and listening for where we see God breaking into our world now. Those places where we see what Isaiah is talking about. Where our world becomes a world of peace. Our lives become world of peace. And we recognize what God is doing and what God can do. Now, I want you to know that Isaiah wasn't some Pollyanna pie-in-the-sky prophet. If you read, he can get pretty mean and pretty dirty and pretty scary. In fact, the first chapter of Isaiah is like that. God is going to do this. And a lot of it is scary stuff. So as we wait, we don't just look for where we find God and we find goodness. We allow the reality of the world to really take hold of us. We see the evil that is around us. We recognize even the bad that's within us, so that we can see what God is truly doing. Because it is God, Isaiah says, that is going to do this new thing. And so what we're waiting for is to recognize what God is doing. That's why we wait, to recognize. And that's why taking time, not speeding through, and looking around is so very important. And so the question then for me is, how do we wait? How do we wait? You know, if you go to a doctor's office and you go to a waiting room, you sit there. It's awful. You just wait. Wait for your name to be called. Wait to be taken into the examination room. And then wait some more for the doctor to actually show up. That is waiting in our minds. But Isaiah and Paul, they invite us to wait in a whole different way. I was once at this funeral, and this pastor was talking about waiting. He said, to all you folks who think waiting is about sitting around until God does something in your life, you're not hearing what God has to say. You're not hearing what we are called to do and be. And he said, I need you to think about waiting more like a person who works in a restaurant. They're waiting, but they're working. They're waiting, but they're doing. They're waiting, but they're serving. They're waiting, but they're bringing stuff to people so that they can enjoy their time in that space. And I went, oh my gosh, this guy is on to something. So while we're waiting for God, while we're waiting for what God is going to do in our lives, we don't just sit around. We don't just sit around and wait for God to call our names. We are called as people of faith to wait, to serve, to do what we have been called to do, to show people what God's reign is going to look like here on earth. That's who we are called to be. Waiters for the world. What an awesome thing to be called to be. A waiter. Or, as we call them now, a servant. My friends, as you come together, as you begin this new year, what is so exciting is that you get to dream new dreams. Think of new possibilities. Listen for where God is calling you. Not just as individuals, but as a community of faith. You get to listen for where God is calling you to be servants. And so, as I leave here, I invite you to join me. To join me in listening for where God is calling you. To invite you to listen for God's dream, God's vision for this church. And while you're listening, while you're dreaming, while you're hearing what God has to say, keep on serving. Serve one another. Serve this community. Be the church so that others may know that dream Isaiah is talking about isn't just a pie-in-the-sky thing, but is a reality that we are trying to live out. So go. Wait for God. And wait on the world.